Hey guys, it's Ruben from Dubb's podcast Connection Loop. I don't even remember the name. It's that crazy right now. I got Swish on the line with me, and I'm so psyched to talk to Swish because we actually met. It's probably been almost a year now, maybe more.
Yeah.
But I remember Swish. You did something that was really really special, and I remember what you did, and it was really kind of two things. But you put together a group of individuals, and this was in New York, and we met at this great little restaurant, and you just put together a group of people, and it was the way in which you did it was so nice and compelling and interesting because I got to sit there at a round table and get to know you and get to know some of your friends. And I remember you said something really specifically, and I said, "Can everyone just go around the room and say what they've accomplished and what they've done, and don't worry about coming off like you have an ego or you're bragging. Just give us the juice, you know."
Yeah.
And I'm going to do the same thing to you right now, man. I want to understand how you've been able to accomplish all the things, at your age. And I just got to hear from you, man. Like, tell us everything and don't worry about the ego. I'll use your own line on you.
So firstly, yes, thank you. Thank you for having me. It was amazing to meet you that day as well. I remember we immediately connected because we actually came early a little bit for the dinner. We were waiting for everyone else. And it was just awesome to hear what you're building with Dubb. I think for me in particular, everything that I've done, whether it's building a company now that's raised close to $2 million, we have some incredible brands working with us. We've made an acquisition last November. If it's speaking under
Saw
one of
that.
the most prestigious speaking bureaus called Speaker Spotlight and doing a couple of TEDx talks, or if it's investing in companies, advising companies, and even having a book coming out, everything that I've done in the most non-modest way, I think, has come down to two things: networking with the right people and always looking to provide value to them first and not trying as much as possible to exploit a relationship. And then number two, it's come down to just work ethic. Trying as much as possible to build out a schedule where I can balance various things, but I can always prioritize certain tasks effectively and get them done.
Nice, man. No, that's very eloquently put. So you guys made an acquisition. So talk to me
We
about,
did.
about that. You guys were very active in the social intelligence space. I'd love to get into that a little bit. And then
Mhm.
what your roadmap looks like.
Totally. Yeah. So when we started TrueFan 2.5 years ago now, pretty crazy how time flies. In December 2017, we initially wanted to build a platform where any brand, any celebrity in the world could go on this platform and just find their top fans. You could sell directly to these top fans. You could reward them. You could use them as brand ambassadors. That's what we wanted to build. Fast forward now 2 years, we've kind of realized that we can actually build a social intelligence platform, which means that we can actually help any brand connect with their grassroots communities, connect with their top 20% of their audience, but also go through their entire following on Twitter or Instagram and slice and dice that audience to be able to find an audience they want to market to. That's where the
Ah,
acquisition comes into play. So about 3 months ago, we acquired a company called Social Rank. We looked up to them, like we really did. Like the founders of Social Rank are geniuses, in my opinion. We got in a phone call with them a year before we bought the company. They've been mentors of ours. And when they were selling the company, we didn't even come in, by the way, as the highest offer. They chose us because they just liked our vision, what we wanted to do with what they had built and the customers that they had acquired. And they just trusted that we would work in their best interest as well. So it's just been a crazy ride being able to bring their customers, their technology, their brand into the TrueFan ecosystem.
so you mentioned something that's kind of interesting. You mentioned, this idea of tapping into the influencer space, and that's a really interesting topic, and I think that's gone through this evolution. It's meant a lot of different things before. I've seen that LinkedIn post that you have on LinkedIn where I think you got 140,000 likes and I
Mhm.
think you got almost 4,000 comments on one LinkedIn post.
Yeah.
So to talk about influencers and not to mention you as an influencer with engagement like that would be remiss. I wanted to understand, what has been your take on creating original content, doing what you just said, which is providing value. What has been your platform? What has been the method in which you've really done that
Yeah.
to put your stuff out there?
Totally. And I think it speaks to the virtue of TrueFan, which is I chose LinkedIn as my core platform. And the reason I think I became big on LinkedIn was twofold. One, I was relatable. I was one of the early students to start posting on LinkedIn. And when I started posting 2, 3 years ago, I was sharing content on some things that every student could relate to. procrastination, feeling lost, not knowing what your passion is, eating ramen for dinner, like literal mental health issues that my friends had gone through that I was talking about in a very honest, vulnerable light. So I think that was number one, is relatability. I was able to immediately find a community to tap into. I started being relatable to what they were going through and connecting with them on that basis. Number two is everything that I've done thus far is very community oriented, which again, it speaks to the virtues of TrueFan, right? We built TrueFan because we believe that for brands, they need to realize that loyalty is a two-way street. If consumers are being loyal to them, they have to be loyal to consumers, especially over social media. And that's what I've done. To date, I still try to comment back to every single person I can, try to show them that it's not an avatar on the other side of this post. It's a human being like me who can engage with them and really appreciate them for taking time out of their day to comment.
And how has that all changed now with our current climate? Like what's your take now as a company, as an individual, as a personality?
Yeah, I think with the company, I mean, we had a very clear manifesto going into this year that we believe paid advertising is a bubble. We think Instagram, Google, Facebook ads are highly ineffective for four key reasons: ad fraud, brands not knowing where their ads are being placed, and sometimes it can be put on top of racist YouTube content like it was for JP Morgan and Verizon last year. Ad blockers being at an all-time high, and they're only continuing to grow on platforms like YouTube. And then brands not even knowing if where they're advertising to is a new market or people that already had buying intent. Right. So what we believe is that influencer marketing is going to continue to be dominant. And now more than ever, where a lot of consumers are being hit hard by COVID, this is the time for every brand, I believe, to truly show that they're purpose driven by reaching out to their grassroots communities made up of super fans and micro influencers, equipping them with the right content, the right feeling to promote their brand and get their true message out.
Well, I mean, I'm psyched personally to be part of your journey in some capacity, because you guys actually very quickly adopted Dubb, and I was really psyched to see that, because you guys are inherently storytellers, and I know that you and some of the members on your team, you guys naturally can build relationships through this kind of digital forum. So Dubb is all about that. That's what we've spent the last so many years doing, is figuring out ways so that people can share stories just like this one, but then get that on social channels and email and stuff. So, thanks for your support on that. Really appreciate it.
No worries.
Yeah. So another kind of question that I have for you is, just to pivot the convo, is that you were at one point in your life a very early venture capitalist, like uncomfortably young. Were you like a teenager? Were you like 19?
Yeah, I was 19.
Because that's uncomfortably young.
I was working at a VC called JB Fitzgerald. It's actually funny. One of my best friends is a girl named Tiffany Zong. She was working at Binary Capital when she was 18.
Okay.
So I guess you just attract the right crowd, really, when you get into that world. But no, I didn't come from a finance background. I think what I had, which is what was so attractive to JB Fitzgerald, was a good network of young entrepreneurs to tap into. They knew that I could hang around these kids, get to know them, connect to them a lot deeper than a VC could, and could qualify which ones actually had good work ethic, which ones didn't, which ones were family oriented, which ones weren't. So that's, I think, the reason why they really thought I was valuable. Obviously, throughout my experience working with JB Fitzgerald, I started picking up a few chops when it came to assessing a company, figuring out what were good bets to make, being able to work on a deal like the DC United deal we made. We invested into DC United, which is one of the fastest growing MLS teams. They're the most decorated MLS team with 13 trophies. So it was pretty neat to be able to do that. And I think the biggest thing for me is constantly trying to invest even now. Like in the last year, my co-founder and I, we've put money towards FaZe Clan, which is the world's most popular esports organization. We've put money towards a dental labs company called Smile Innovations in Vancouver. We're just constantly trying to look for opportunities to be able to put our feet in.
And then when you invest, what do you kind of look for? I mean, you obviously have perspective, and you're seeing something that most people are not seeing.
Right.
What is that insight?
I think twofold. I think not to go with the cliche, but who the operator is. It's always good to know that I can connect with this operator. I can work with them. They're open-minded. They're hustling. They're the type of person that doesn't see this as a quick buck, but sees whatever they're building as something that they want to do for the next 10, 15 years, which really is the mindset that you need to have when you approach a business. You can't approach it with I'm here for 2 years and then I'm out. And I definitely learned that building TrueFan is you have to have a 5, 10, 15-year commitment. It might not be that long, but you definitely want to be prepared for that. And then I think number two is just gauging impact of the industry and the business, right? The reason why we invested in FaZe Clan is because Onik is incredibly well versed in esports, has taught me a lot about it. And we really believe that the industry is going to continue to become dominant. Esports already, in terms of viewership for certain tournaments, is beating traditional sports. Now more than ever, especially with COVID, people are playing video games, and younger people are going on platforms and making money and making it a full-time career. So I think that the industry as a whole and where it's going is something we wanted to participate in, which is why we also made a bet.
Nice. You've done 3 TED Talks now, TEDx Talks. Let's get into that. What was that process like? Did you pursue that? Did they invite you?
Yeah, so it's cool because all 3 have been invitations, which, very blessed that way. In my first year of college, I was actually volunteering for TEDx U of T, and a speaker dropped out at the last minute, and they invited me to give the talk because they knew I had a background in debate. I debated extensively in high school. And so I gave a talk on social entrepreneurship because I'd built a nonprofit in high school. And I really just spoke about my experience being a young social entrepreneur. The second talk, which was, I think, about 2 years ago, I gave that whole talk off LinkedIn and storytelling and personal branding. It's a talk that I think I've given now 150, 200 times because that's what I speak with under Speaker Spotlight. That's what they commissioned me out for. But it was really cool to be able to get onto that TEDx stage and tell people, all right, here we go. This is exactly what I believe is the future of storytelling. Here's where it's going to be, and here's how you participate. And then the third talk was about a couple of months ago, actually 8 or 9 months ago. I got to speak on mental health, which was an important topic for me. It's something that I've spoken about at a bunch of colleges and universities. I feel very passionate about the issue. I think everyone can relate to it. So it was really neat to be able to kind of have those 3 talks, and they're all very separate from each other. People always ask, would you do another one? I would say no to that right now because I don't have another topic really to talk about. But maybe in a couple of years, as I start to endeavor into various other things and my passions develop, it might be cool to give another talk, which could be nice.
And then right now, if you wanted to recommend how people can actually become a TEDx speaker, what would you recommend? I know that there's a form and you can look for the local events, but what's kind of the smarter way to do it?
Totally. I mean, look, there's 3 ways, right? One is the simple application and then go and see who's on the team, try to see if you can go on a coffee with them, meet them, interview them, connect with them in whatever way possible and let them know what you're doing. And hopefully that's good enough for them to recommend you to the main speakers committee. The second thing, though, is to, just like me, pursue whatever it is you're doing and try to do it at the highest level possible. And when you do that, and when you do talk about it on a platform like LinkedIn and Instagram, people will notice. People will want you to come and speak at their college, at a TEDx event, whatever it is. And I think the third and final thing you could do, and honestly, I do know some people who have done this, is you could be a part of the organizing committee and then speak. So if you don't have a TEDx at your college or university or in your city, you could organize that event and then put yourself on the speakers list as well, which I know some people who've done that. So, it kind of can go one of 3 ways. I think the way that I've gone about it is just committing to my project, trying to do it at a high level, and then gauging opportunities when they come my way.
That makes sense. I mean, the idea of good things coming to you by doing hard work, that's kind of what you were working on, right? Which you were referencing in the bebeginning, where it's about hard work and it's about that ethic, and then things kind of come to you. That makes sense. I think it's like when I think of, there's sort of an analogy here with like getting martial arts belts. And I think a lot of people have that bucket list of things that they want to do. They want to be a TED speaker. They want to raise this much money. They want to sell this company for that much money. They want to take a company public, and they call it belt chasing in martial arts. But, ambition chasing, I think that I always kind of caution people to do that because anytime I've tried to do that, I've never accomplished it. For one reason or the other, it just didn't happen. And if I just, hunkered down and just got my work done and just built relationships, all of the things that you said earlier, better things have come to me. So it sounds like you're doing the exact right thing.
Yeah, and it's cliche, like obviously I understand, like people probably hear it all the time, put in hard work and things will happen. But again, like when people ask me, do you believe you were ever lucky? Like to an extent I do, but in most cases, I actually do believe that I positioned myself to be lucky. Like there are actually steps before the moment of luck where I've actually legitimately put in effort and put in time towards putting myself in a very particular position to have a meeting, get an investment, hire someone. that's what I've done before. And that's where the hard work really counts. Because at the end of the day, like there's an incredible artist by the name of Chris Newman. He was actually featured in Netflix's Abstract, The Art of Design. His job is to come and look at a blank canvas every day and just draw. And he said, my job is literally to just show up. As long as I show up every single day, I look at that canvas, I am putting myself in a position for magic to happen. That's exactly what you do as an entrepreneur as well. You show up, not every day is going to go well, but you're putting yourself in a position for things to happen.
I was watching a documentary yesterday on the early Disney team and the animators. There was this like dream team of like, I think less than 15 animators. And they did all the magic back then. This was before computers. Everything was hand drawn and it was phenomenal. I think Tim Burton was among that list. And it was really interesting because they were doing exactly what you were talking about, where they'd start, they'd have an idea, they'd have a story, and then they just had to bring it to life. And the synergy that they had, and this was kind of like, this was like the pre-era, the golden era back in like, I think the 80s to the 90s. And it was truly amazing what they did because they did exactly what you're saying. Is they showed up and then just through collaboration, through teamwork, and through tons of creativity, they would just bring things to life and create like multi-billion dollar franchises. So I think you're right. That's what entrepreneurship is about, you know?
Yeah.
But you know, let's be real. Entrepreneurship is also a pain, and it's a struggle, and it's riddled with failures. You know, and I think it's important when we talk about success to also talk about failures. So what are some of the terrible failures that you've endured, and that you know, what are the things that you've learned from as a result?
Sure, and I'll preface this all by saying again, I'm 22. I don't think I've even hit my peak of success or failure. Every time I talk about my failures, my mom like laughs in the back of the audience because she's like, I've gone through a divorce. I have like mortgage payments I still have to pay off, being like, you know, had job issues. What do you know? So I don't want to come off like, you know, I've experienced a great deal of failure. I think for me, I've definitely had failed startups growing up in high school and in college. For example, I tried to start a food delivery app in my first year of college, which did not work. We got the app to a prototype stage because I wanted every college student to gain access to leftover or excess food that came from a Starbucks or a Quiznos or whatever it was. But sadly, there's actually a Food Donation Act of 1994 in Canada that prevents people from making money on donated food. We did not do a legal check until 8 months down the road of building the company, which was a huge mistake, and sadly had to close down. So there are failures like that. But then, even
what was that moment like? Let's go there for a minute.
It was just rough. Like, it was rough because you commit yourself, right? Like, I'd written a business plan. I had gone through and built a team. I had raised a bit of money, like a very small amount of money, paid for the development cost of the prototype, gotten the prototype out, submitted applications for Y Combinator. Our co-founder and me were best friends. We were super excited to just get this going. We saw ourselves even dropping out for this project. And then 8 months down the road to go through and realize, damn it, we can't do this. We can't make money on it. What are we going to do? It's just crazy.
Did you consider pivoting at that moment, or did you just say we're done, we're out?
I think we said we're done because both my co-founder and I did know we wanted to stay in Canada and build this. And they were like, the UK actually has a version of what we wanted to build. It's called Olio, Olio.
I see.
But they're crazy. They're awesome. Started by 2 Stanford grads. Both of them are amazing. And like, I just didn't feel like we could compete in Canada, just given the government laws. Like, and you know, maybe that's a losing mentality. I understand. You know, there's companies like Uber, for example, that have come out and they've broken a bunch of laws and somehow fought it and won. But I feel like as a 20-year-old in college, I just didn't feel like that was the right fight to battle.
Well, I mean, one of the things that I'm thinking about is these scooter companies right now, and I've been contemplating them a lot, because how do you go from nothing to all of a sudden flooding major cities and having these scooters everywhere that really benefit a lot of people, piss off other people, safety wise, you know, on the fence.
Okay.
But then all of a sudden, you're done. You're wiped. Like no one wants scooters like they wanted them a month ago or 2 months ago. You know. So I've been thinking about that a lot. How do you pivot that? What's your take on that? What do you think companies that right now have basically, like, any pizza shop is not selling pizzas right now? Maybe they're delivering some. But not at the level at which, I mean, you know, what's your recommendation here? How can we solve this? How can we resolve this? How can we pivot away from this?
Well, I think it's twofold. I think A is, listen, I don't think scooters are the future of transportation. as much as they're amazing. And I think it took me back to a time in Singapore growing up when I used to ride scooters. They kind of
Yeah,
brought us back to the 90s
same.
and early 2000s. I think the idea behind scooters is, and I think the reason why you see companies like Lime and Bird successful is not because of the actual scooter. It's because of how accessible this mode of
Right.
transportation is and how cheap it is. So it's more of a benefit of the sharing economy than it is an actual scooter when you look at it. So I think it's playing to that and trying to figure out what is the next mode of transportation that we can make affordable, accessible, and widespread. That's what you got to look at. The second thing is burning cash like that. Like I think Bird was announced that they burn about $20.3 million a month. Like, these companies aren't profitable. And it makes me wonder, like, I understand they have to grow. They have to compete in various markets. They're trying to get a first mover advantage everywhere. But to what extent? Like, if you're only investing so much in scooters, there are companies in China that I saw, they were putting in bikes, like shared bikes. And they have a bunch of bikes now that just don't have any customers because people have moved on to the cheaper option. So now you just have a bunch of bikes in various cities of China that aren't being used. You spent all of that cash just trying to get into those areas, and there's no way to repurpose those bikes into anything else. So I think it's really taking a good look at your business model and trying to figure out, like, is this actually where we need to devote our resources to stay competitive 15 to 20 years down the road?
So here's a business that you and I can co-found. Here's my pitch. We'll go to those companies in China, all the scooter
Yep.
companies. We'll
Yep.
take their inventory, we'll repurpose it, have distribution channels, and sell it to college students in 3 to 6 months from now when the sky's not falling.
Done. 50-50. You heard it here first. 50-50. I'm in.
Nice, man. So you guys, going back to this acquisition that you guys have done, what did that look like? I mean, you guys are a startup, and then you guys acquired another startup. How are you guys going to parlay two different visions into this one kind of grand vision? And then what's your eventual bigger pitch for the world?
Yeah, so it was good because the vision for both companies coming in was very much similar. SocialRank has been a very affordable platform. It's very easy to use, and that's what we wanted to build TrueFan into as well. Because our goal is not to just be another analytics company that services Fortune 500 companies. We can do that. We have some great brands on board, whether it's a Samsung or an Uber Eats or a Netflix. We have those bigger companies on board. But what nobody has done effectively in our space is gone after these small business owners that don't have a lot of money, time, or followers. If you're able to build a platform that is intuitive enough where it's easy to be able to derive value from it in a short period of time, and it doesn't cost a lot of money, that's a gold mine in my opinion. So that's what we're trying to work towards. It was a similar vision that we had with SocialRank. We got the whole deal done in a month, which was absolutely crazy. When I talked to some of my friends who have made acquisitions or they sold their company, they've been telling me that it takes about 5 to 8 months if you're lucky to get your deal processed in that time. So we moved really quickly because we really wanted to bring this platform on before the end of 2019.
There was a lot of news that came out, and congratulations on that, by the way. That's a big deal.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
There was a lot of news that came out, I think about 6 months ago, and they were talking about the death of the influencer marketing movement.
Totally.
I don't know. There was this great article that came out, forgot where it was, and they kind of got into it, that it's a bubble,
Yep.
And you mentioned something that I think was interesting before, which is that advertising is a bubble too. Instagram ads, Facebook ads. We know how much those CPCs are. I've seen CPCs on LinkedIn and Facebook that are like $12 just for a click, and it's really hard to monetize that, obviously.
Sure. Yeah.
So there's like these bubbles that are out there in the marketing, advertising ecosystem. What is your take on that? When is there going to be a correction? I mean, if there's ever a time to be a correction, it's now, when our entire world is being corrected.
Yeah. And I'll tell you, those articles that were written, and by the way, I've read those articles too around influencer marketing is dead, it's going to change, whatever. I think that was based on a very traditional model of influencer marketing, which is we're a brand, we're going to pay an influencer with millions of followers. We wouldn't care whether or not that influencer has fake engagement or fake followers. We're just going to pay them. And then on top of that, our metric for success is going to be impressions, not conversion. That was the old model of influencer marketing. Where I think we're positioning ourselves, and there are other companies doing this as well, which I love, is they're trying to focus on micro influencers that have higher engagement rates, they're cheaper to work with, and they already buy from your brand. They're already a customer of yours. If you're able to take those three things and empower those people and activate them to start distributing content or start posting for you or start buying your product at a much higher level, that's a win. So I love that, like eBay, I think it was eBay and Unilever at Cannes Lions, the marketing conference that happens every year in 2019. They said that they're not going to do influencer marketing anymore because they want to go and empower and reward their influential buyers and sellers. And that's amazing. That's
Right.
exactly what we're talking about. Is try to engage your own audience before you start paying people that might have fake followers and fake engagement and aren't actually leading to any direct conversion.
Well, see what I think about. I mean, I love the idea of, direct response advertising or conversion focused advertising, a direct, huge emphasis on attribution and the things that we do. And
Yep.
one of the hardest things to do on any social platform is to get attribution, because the second that you put a couple extra little parameters with some UTM data or some information that's going to track something back in Google or this or that, and you're some conversion platform, you've lost trust with people because they're like, oh,
Mm-hmm.
well, is that a tracking link? Is that a affiliate link? What the heck is that? I don't want to click on that.
Yeah.
How do we solve the attribution problem, the
Mm-hmm.
direct attribution problem, not necessarily from a brand lift perspective or viewership perspective, but from from an actual conversion perspective?
I think it's understanding that the idea of sequential marketing is very true, which is it does take multiple touch points to finally get a consumer to convert and to make them do that in an authentic way. That's the critical thing. A bunch of people might swipe up to your website, but they might not actually buy at the end because they didn't even want to come in and buy this ad or buy this product. They just simply did it because they were told to do it by someone they looked up to. So I think it's when you are able to go through micro influencers and empower people. Like, for example, I'll tell you an example that happened to me a few days ago. I was looking for a mattress and I went on ND.com. Now I'm getting peppered with ND ads. I don't actually mind it though, because the ND ads that I'm being given are from actual consumers. They're sponsoring consumer posts that aren't getting millions of likes. They're only getting like 1,000, 2,000 likes. They're from people that have kind of smaller followings, but it's so authentic because they clearly bought the product, they've utilized it, and in the caption, they're so detailed about how this has benefited them. As
And these
opposed
are
to,
and these are ads?
these are ads. So Andy's putting money against customers of them who are buying their product and then asking them, can you talk about it online? We'll promote it. So that's
Ah.
amazing, right? You're taking user generated content, you're putting ad spend behind it, and now you're able to pepper all of these potential customers with ads from real people, real customers, as opposed to people that were just forced to put up a post.
And then when those posts, are they from the actual manufacturer, or are they posts
Sometimes
that?
both. Sometimes
Oh,
both. Yeah.
that's really interesting. So it's an
Yeah.
individual user, just like you and me, that
Yep.
goes to our Facebook page, and then
Yep.
someone reaches out to us. They call us from corporate, and they
Yep.
say, "We're going to fund this. Here's $1,000." They use the Facebook ad engine, they
Yep.
fuel the account, and
Yep.
then they go and fund that. I see. That's really interesting.
It could be that way, or it could be the other way where you do assemble
Right.
micro influencers, you make them buy the product, and you connect their Instagram account with your paid manager. Right. And
Okay.
you're
Got
able
it.
to do that. Like, for example, I did a campaign with RBC, which is a bank in Canada, a few months ago, went out to an event that they hosted for Gen Z, took a couple of stories, went home, did a post, and then they were the ones that promoted it to bring their audience over to what I had talked about, because I talked about it in a very honest and raw way.
Got it. Got it. I think
Right.
that's really cool. The interesting thing here is that creating that content and getting someone to actually go and to do that video, and there's a magic point in that, because how do you
Mhm.
convert someone that's a customer to
Yep.
become an evangelist? And what does that
Exactly.
process look like?
And that's where TrueFan, right? Like, not to plug
Boom.
ourselves, but that's where you got to start building a relationship with these people and rewarding them, giving them a discount, 20% off your next purchase, being able to give them exclusive access to things before it comes out. If I was Justin Bieber promoting the Changes album, I would have given the Changes album out 10 days in advance to 500 of my top fans in the United States, allowed them to talk about it on social. Now they're literally going to be posting a story, listening to Changes in advance, and buzzing up interest among every music page and every music publication on the internet, right? Simple things like that can actually have a viral effect when you really think about it.
That's incredible. So how can people join up? What's the process to onboard? Is there a
Yeah.
certain qualification of ad budget, or what does that look like?
No qualification of ad budget as long as you're in North America. You do influencer marketing, you're looking for a tool potentially to find influencers or to validate whether an influencer has real followers and whether they're actually leading to people onto your page, you can go on to trufan.io, trufan.io, and you can just contact us directly for a demo. Actually, next week, we're going to be launching a pricing page as well. So if you want to get onto a very basic version of TrueFan, you'll be able to do that in a self-serving way.
Nice. Speaking of self-serve, one way that I'd love to support this is that there's two things that we've really innovated at Dubb, which is the idea to create quick ad hoc videos, phone, webcam, DSLR, whatever it is, and then to actually embed those onto high-value pages on your site. So imagine a video of you or your co-founder that's explaining how your pricing model works or how your subscription model.
I love that.
Yeah. And since we kind of peppered those, just to use your word, we've peppered those throughout the Dubb platform, and now every single high value page has a video on it. We've stopped pitching. We don't pitch the product anymore. Now we've gone completely from hybrid outbound inbound to all inbound. I mean, we still have a lot of work to do, but we're trying to move in this direction of just scaling and minimizing the costs and not having to spend so much money in advertising. So anyways, I'd love to support with you on that, and we'll do a sesh at some point. So
definitely.
Yeah. Here's a question for you, kind of specific. What is your North Star metric for your business?
Yeah, I think for us, twofold. A is sales. How many people are we able to bring onto the platform? How much are we making in the year? We do have a goal of doubling our annual recurring revenue by the end of the year. And hopefully being able to assess our options from there. Like, what do we want to do? Do we want to get into another area of social media analytics? Do we want to go and partner up with bigger point of sale companies like Shopify and Lightspeed? Do we want to go down an unregulated path, a regulated path with the cannabis companies right now that are popping up in Canada? There's a bunch of things that I think we can do once we're in a very strong cash position, which is what we're trying to get to. I think the second thing is customer satisfaction. We haven't been tracking it too much in the past couple of months, but it is something we're planning to do onwards, is looking in and trying to figure out, like, all right, what is our NPS score? What is our CSAT score? And trying to figure out how satisfied people are with what we built. So those two things, I think, are the North Star metrics for success, in our opinion.
Nice, man. And where can people find you on social? I know LinkedIn is your go-to channel. So
yep.
What's username, or I guess I can just search for you by name.
Yeah, by name, Swish, SWISH. I believe I should be the only Swish on LinkedIn.
Okay, but not the only Manu.
Not the only Manu. MANU, you will find multiple of those people. But my last name, Goswami, GOSWAMI. And then on Instagram and Twitter, GoSwish, GOSWISH.
Cool. And then this was actually promoted on your Twitter handle as well. So
perfect.
Yeah. Nice, man. And then final question. Do you believe that there is a positive outlook within a very short amount of time in our current situation right now? And when, if so, is that going to look like?
Yeah, so I mean, we're kind of in different boats here. Like, obviously, you being in the United States and me being in Canada, we're all kind of fighting our own battles individually, if you will. But honestly, if I had to be very real, I don't think the situation is going to weather away anytime soon, sadly. I think just looking at Canada and the US, we have quite a lot of work to do to contain the virus, and then past containing it, to then give breathing room to our hospitals, to give breathing room for a vaccine to be developed, to then get that vaccine out to the people who need it the most, to be able to manage ICU rooms, to be able to make sure that people affected by corona can come in and get the care they need, but people that have a heart attack or go into cardiac arrest can also go and use emergency services at the same rate. And then finally, being able to eradicate the virus globally. So I think this is the beginning of something a lot larger. I think people think that the quarantine might last a couple of weeks. I don't think it will. I think it's going to fluctuate, though. Like, I think we're going to get to June, hopefully in July, and we're going to be able to go outside, and we might even be able to go back to work. But I think it's going to fluctuate based on how the levels of the virus are in various places. And as they continue to decrease and increase, the quarantine might be put back. At the same time, though, there are a lot of benefits that have come out from the situation. If you want to be an optimist, I think people have gone back into their homes and they're starting to realize the importance of community, the importance of their family. I think a lot of people are taking their health not for granted anymore, especially entrepreneurs that tend to do that a lot. And I think people are starting to realize that online is really the future. like a lot of traditional brands had never thought about an online strategy, even though they were thinking about it. I think this is kind of the push now to really have to develop an online strategy and modernize to be able to keep up with where future consumers are especially going to be buying from.
Nice, man. Well, that sounds like a TED Talk to me right there.
And it's I will be delivering that in 2 months.
It's a TED Talk. It's a TED Talk that we need virtually. So, Swish, thank you so much for your time, man. Really appreciate it.
Thank you. I appreciate you having me.
Be well, my friend.